Hi everybody, this is Tina with Rehatch Designs, and I'm here with part 3 of our Shabby Journal start to finish. And today what we're going to do is we are going to take our journal and we're going to be sewing in the pages of our 3 signature journal. And I want to go through that process. This is not really a journal for a first-time journal maker, but someone who's done it maybe and done a 1 signature journal and wants to move forward a little bit and do multiple signatures or add layers and things like that, just to show how you get to that point. I do have other videos that are for beginners for their first time, and I will link those in the description box, but they're also in my playlist. There's multiple videos out there that I have on that, and a lot of other people have videos. So I wouldn't say this is for the first time journal maker, but I'm gearing it in explanation and how I'm doing it to people that are beginners that have maybe done 1 or 2 journals and they want to expand to multiple signatures, or they want to learn how to put layers in and give it that shabby layered look. So that's what we're doing now. We've already completed our cover, and what we want to do now is we want to look at our pages and decide what we want to add to our journal and how we want to decorate those pages. So first off, I have done a lot of work ahead of time because in order to fit everything in this one video, I had to do some ahead, and I will have to do some things where you don't get to see everything I'm doing because you can't fit it all in one hour video. So first off, what I've done with the pages is I've divided them up into 3 signatures, and I'm going to explain why I did what I did. I was going to tear the pages, and I decided not to do that because I wanted them a little bit more uniform. I didn't want them perfect, but I wanted them to be, I didn't want to take the chance that some would be kind of off quite a bit. So what I did use is a distressing tool. You can use your scissors. You don't have to have a distressing tool. You could use just a sharp edge like that. You could use the edge of your scissors and just go like this. I have one. There's all different companies that make them. I've probably had this 20 years. And you just basically go around and rough the edges of your pages, okay? And then what I did after that is I just took some walnut stain and I went over the edges of all of my pages, front and back, because if you just do the front, you could have some little white showing. What happens when you distress is it kind of sometimes will rip the edges a little bit and fold them a little bit, and it gives the same kind of look as being torn, except you do have a little bit more control, whereas you're not maybe going in a bunch and that type of thing. And I kind of decided that that was the look I wanted to have. I wanted it to have that shabby worn look, but not overly distressed and grungy. Okay, then what I did is I got my pages, and what you're going to see is that all of my pages are not the same size. I have some that are bigger than my my journal pages, some that are smaller. I am only trying to make sure that these pages fit comfortably inside my journal cover. If you will see, my tallest page, and I even have some different hankies and things like that, and I'm not including those because those are going to stick out, but I want my pages to fit where I have some room on top and the bottom it where it's not right up at the top, and it's just like that. It's probably about 1/8 of an inch up here and 1/8 of an inch down there, and I have plenty of room off to the side, which you will have less once you put your signatures in. It'll be like, this will be like right to the edge right there. So anyway, that is what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about that they're all the same. In fact, I like them not to be the same. I like them to be shabby, and that's the whole point of a shabby journal, is that it's not perfect. Okay, now some people may want to make a shabby journal more perfect. That's up to you. I like it perfectly imperfect. Okay, as far as the pages protruding out, that always happens when you do these, because what will happen is your journal will come out more toward the middle, because your pages, okay, are being stacked on top of each other. All right, once you sew them in, they'll get a lot tighter and there won't be as much. But in this case, some of our pages are longer. Okay, I simply cut them 5 1/2, and some of them were a little bit longer. I just left them, and that's because most of that is going to be covered up. Okay, you're not even going to see that. It's not even going to be noticeable when we're done. In a 3 signature journal, that gives you quite a few pages. That's over 140 pages in a journal, and that's a pretty good full-size journal. Especially if you're newer, I would stick to that. The less pages in a signature, the better it's going to end up looking, the easier it's going to be able to do. And for a beginner, I would try and keep it at 10, maybe 12 pages. And as I said, I think this is 13, including the doily. Okay, what I tried to do in my journals is, if you look, I am varying the types of paper, how they feel, because a lot of doing a junk journal is tactile. Let me take a drink of water. My allergies are killing me today. It's the feel. I use parchment paper for different reasons. One, because I use ivory parchment paper from Southland. I buy it kind of in bulk on Amazon, and I use that, and what that does is it makes my paper look vintage. I know a lot of people tea dye their pages and then print on them. Well, this kind of accomplishes the same thing for me. And then what I do is I distress them out, and that way I'm not worried about them going through my printer, and the quality of the print is good. It does dull it down because it's ivory and parchment papers, but that's the same thing that coffee dyeing your papers and printing does. So anyway, I do that. But part of the reason that I use the parchment paper is that it's a lot stronger than copying paper, and I tend to put my lace and trims on these pages. I'll put my pockets on a lot of these pages, and I want it to be strong and I want it to hold up. I tend to sew on these pages, and so the parchment paper holds up better than just regular copying paper. And I like the look of it and the feel of it, and that's why I use that. Okay, now these papers here, they are just regular copying paper. This tea dyed paper, it's just regular, and I like that better when I do my tea dyed, coffee dyed, or avocado dyed, or just dyed pages, because they have that crunchy kind of feeling to it, and I do not iron them at all because I want that. I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to have that feel. Okay, so I don't really distress these because they tend to look distressed already. Okay, so here's another one of our pages, and that's this one. What I'm doing also, I'm varying the heights and the sizes of my pages, and so what that does is that gives you interest. Okay, so here's another little bag that I put in there, And again, I cut the other side, so that is going to give us a little pocket on both sides. Usually I put at least one piece of vellum in my journal, just for the tactile feel of it. A lot of times I print on vellum and then put it in there. This time I wanted to add just a touch of blue in the journal, so I put this pretty blue vellum in there. This is coffee, it might be tea dyed, I don't know, I can't remember. No, I think this one's coffee dyed. This is a coffee dyed. This is music paper that that you compose on. This is a coffee dyed doily. I usually put a doily in each signature, but I try and put different ones in, so it looks different. Here's another page. This is a piece of French dictionary, and I put the washi tape down the middle to strengthen it up. And then here is an avocado dyed page. Well, this is our middle signature, and I am going to put a doily in there, a real doily, and I like to pick them to where they're not overly thick. Those are the ones I love to use in there. And this one I'm going to have, hang down just a little bit at the bottom. So this will be hanging. It'll be another one of our little hanging things. Put that in the middle, and that will get sewn right into our signature. Okay, because I am going to decide what trims I'm going to put on here and what I need to sew before I put my signatures together. Now, here is the clincher, guys. You do not have to sew any of your trims or anything on your journal, okay? Because honestly, fabric tack, 3-in-1, even tacky glue, they will hold them on just as well as sewing, if not better, okay? The sewing part really is more of a texture adding to it, okay? If you use the right glue, it will work just as well as sewing it on, okay? In fact, usually what I do, and this is just for my ease, is I glue it on and then sew, okay? Sometimes I just glue it on, and a lot of times I glue it on, then sew, get my journal all put together, and then I add things later. And well, I don't have to. You can sew it on. It's more difficult, but I just usually glue it on, and I'll make it look sewn because I may sew the pocket and then glue it on. In fact, almost all of my pockets I do not sew on my in my book, and the reason I don't is I don't like like if I were to put a pocket here, which I probably will, okay, if I sew it on, it's going to have the sewing marks over here. Okay, a lot of people don't mind that. I don't like how that looks, so I don't do that. But what I do is I will sew around my pocket. Let's say, for instance, I was going to use this. I will sew around it, and then I will glue it down. And so it looks sewn around there, but there's no marks on this side. And I promise you, it will stay just as well if you glue it right with the right glue as sewing, okay? And then the texture's there because you have sewn around the pocket, okay? Plus, what that also allows you to do is that can allow you to see your journal put together and then decide where you want things. Now, some things you kind of have to do ahead of time and plan ahead of time. Okay, so first off, what I do is I go through and I decide what laces and trims I want on my signature. So I know the order that they're going to be in, and I'm going to put this on here on top on all of these, and you'll see why. Okay, so this is the order they're going to be in. And then I get out my cover, okay, and I put them in my cover like that, all right, and then I kind of audition different things that I want to put on there. Okay, so I went ahead and stopped the camera and put in my trims and things. I also did some other things just because there's no way that we would have time to fit everything all in this one video if I didn't do that. On the front cover, I added some eyelash trim because I thought it would make it look a little shabbier. Went all the way around, and then I put some on the bottom on this rope trim. I just put it on each side of the little rope just because I thought it would give it a little bit more of a shabby look. It was bothering me. It just didn't look right. And it just could be me, okay? Anyway, I went ahead and put on the all of the little trim that we wanted, and I'm going to go through that with you. The thing that I was trying to achieve is, if you look on the side here, is this kind of cascading look here. And of course it's not perfect all the way down, but that's what we were trying to do. I didn't put them all the way across on everyone, so I'm going to show you what I did. So this was a snippet roll that we made on my channel, so that is here, and that's the first one. I was going to put it in the middle, but I actually think it looks better there. I like how it looks with this over here and the pink. I look at the whole thing whenever I'm looking at this, okay? And then these aren't in any kind of, you know, shape yet, but this is what I call a kind of a tab, and I'm going to put a button on this. I didn't do it yet. And by the way, I glued these on and then I sewed. Okay, so these are sewn and glued. And then I sewed all the way around this piece on both sides. And then there's trim on the other side. So when I took this to my sewing machine, this is how it looked, okay? And I put in my little pockets here, or side little pockets, and I put my other trim on the other side, and I sewed all the way around. So that's done, okay? When I do that, I know that one is in the beginning and one is in the end, so they're not side by side. So that is how that looks. This is really to hold in the top, this is to hold in here, and that holds that in, okay? Again, you could glue it and not sew it. It would do the same thing, okay? I also, before I put things together, anything else, like this is a tab, basically. It hangs off the side. This is a piece of tablecloth. This is a doily. And I put a piece of cardstock behind here because that will make this just a little tuck right there. And then I sewed here, okay? So on this, what I did is I have a tab here, and this is what I call a tab. If it doesn't go all the way down, then to me this is a tab, even though this is going like halfway, okay? So I put a piece of lace, and then on top of that, I wanted more movement on. I put some of that Swiss dot on top of that, and so that is what's on there, okay? So that's on one side and that's on the other side, and I sewed around it. So that's that, okay? And I kept going, like I'm just going to go through it. Here is what I would call a tab. And I do that because I don't necessarily like the look of just one lace after another going down. I don't know, somehow it looks too neat. I don't like that. Okay, so this is another piece here, and this is just kind of like a collage of different laces. It's got the green and the beige and this other one there. Okay, and you'll see I have little pockets and stuff folded in there, and I'll show you why in a minute, but let's get this part done first, okay? So here I have another trim. This was a flat lace. I put it on flat and I didn't like it, so then I just did what I would do on anything, and I went ahead and ruffled it and put it on. So there's that, okay? This is our envelope that we had, and I went ahead on that. and I went ahead and put a piece of paper on the open side. So, and then we have the other side here. I'll probably leave that plain. And I sewed around it, okay, just for looks, really. That's it. This is a piece that we had of our avocado dyed paper, and remember it was long because I did it on legal and I turned it over. So this is part of the kit, and I just cut it to fit over here. I went ahead and sewed it on here, and then on this side there's a little pocket, and it folds out like that, okay? So those are all kinds of things that you want to think about when you're doing it, what you would want to sew ahead of time. This is another, that's that piece that I showed you. Here, we'll talk about these later. Here's another little thing that I put on. Here's the ruffle on that side, and we saw that already. Here's another ruffle that I put on, and then when I sewed around that, I also sewed in this little piece of lace here. Here's another one that I put on, and I didn't put it all the way down. I only put it this far, and it's, you know, to me I call this like a tab because it's not all the way. Now you could put tabs on there too, but usually when I do this I don't do tabs, okay? Here's another one that's just a few pieces of, this is some lace, and then this is a piece of a doily right here, and I thought that that was pretty together, so I put that there. This is just a piece of material, and I put that toward the bottom, and that's where I put that there. And this is part of a napkin, and I cut off that trim, and then I put some lace on it. I love how that looks with this over here, okay? And then the last part is this longer piece here, and it sticks out a little bit more, and that's sewn on, and that's sewed in this vintage lace. Now, the point of I want to show you, when I do these like partial ones, I actually look at it and go, okay, I put one toward the top, maybe the next one I want to put more toward the bottom, maybe this one I put here. So I kind of fill in the spots back and forth. I don't just randomly put them there. There's kind of a rhyme and a reason to it. Okay, so this is our last signature, and we've got our blue trim there, and then I've got this here, and of course that was sewn around. Here I have some material, and I didn't go all the way down, I just did it this far, and it hangs off the side. Okay, here we have another piece, and it does not go all the way up. See, this piece started on top, this one started on bottom, and when you go to look at it from the side, that will make a difference, okay? This part was a doily that I put on, and what that does is that gives you like a little ruffle in the middle, but it also gives you a tuck spot there too, okay? So then here we have a whole piece going up and down, okay? And then this is part of a napkin that I cut off, okay? Of course, I sewed around that, and that puts that on there, and I put a piece of lace right there, okay? So that is my lace trim that I'm going to put on, and I actually didn't put it on everyone, almost everyone, but not everyone, and I didn't do it all the way across, because what that does, honestly, is it gives it a really kind of more of a shabby look, and it goes all the way down, and you have some that are here, some that are there, some that are in the middle, so some all the way down. All right, now the other things that you saw in there are all of the little pockets and things, and I'm actually not going to put those in now, but I want to show you how you would put them in and how it's going to look sewn. Okay, let's just say, I don't even know where that went. Let's just say we put this in here, okay? This is a glassine bag that I decorated. It has this beautiful tag with it and these roses. So if I wanted to put that in there, I could glue that down right there and not even sew it, okay? But if you look around it, it looks sewed here. I could, if I wanted to, I have enough room on this tag, I could sew it here and sew it there just to give it the look of being sewed, and I might do that, okay? But anyway, so I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to put that up here because those are, I'm just trying to show you things that we could be doing sew in, but we're not going to, and how I get around that. Here's one of the pockets that came with the kit, and I have sewn around here and here and here. And I went ahead and took my scoreboard and I folded those pieces in, and when I want to glue this down, I'm going to put this like that, okay? So that gives me room to put stuff in my pocket. You glue it here and glue it there, and if I were to have sewn this in, that would lay flat in there and there wouldn't be as much room. But this makes it look like it's sewn on, and it's not, okay? So that is something to consider, okay? And I do that a lot. Here is just a little coffee filter that I sewed around, and I put this little piece from the kit, and that's a little pocket, and I can just glue that on to this, and it would end up looking like it was sewn on, okay? So I'm not going to do that now. Take the time to do that. I'm just showing you the different things. I'll probably never remember where they were, but that's okay. Anyway, here's another one. I showed you that, and that is just, when you have these little flip outs, you can decorate those, you can do whatever. I chose to make another little pocket in there, and you still have all that room. All right, this is just a little flip up, and I sewed the top of it. It's got lace on there, it's got the velvet, and then it's got these little pieces, different pieces of material and lace and trim, and I will probably just put that on a page like this, okay? And I'll glue it on like toward the top, and it'll just look like it's sewn on, okay? And it'll hold just as well, and it'll have the same look, and you won't be stitching through the back of the other page, okay? So I don't usually put those on prior to sewing in my journal, okay? I put the trims on. I'll put any of these pieces that need to be sewn on top and bottom. I usually don't do a lot of the pockets. Here's another one that I sewed all the way around. So when I put this on, it's going to look sewn onto the page. These are things that we'll put on later, but remember we had those little clusters. That's the kind of thing that I could put on later. I can sew them if I want to, but usually I don't. And I will just put them on like that. And if I do want it to look sewn, I'll just take this to my sewing machine and sew around here and then put it on here. So it'll look like it's sewn on, but it's actually not. It's glued on, okay? So let me put that in my pile. Here's, again, I've got another pocket that came with the kit. And even though this is sewn here, I would put this on like that, okay? So it would end up looking like it's sewn on, and you would glue it on, and from the back you would think it was sewn on also, okay? But it will hold fine. Again, if you were to have sewn this on, right, you basically would be sewing this down. But I like it to look like it's sewn on, so that's what I do. All right. This is a little pocket that I made with material, and there's some trim hanging off the bottom. The way I do these is I put them this part right here, right toward the bottom, like that. So if you want things dangling down the bottom, then you just dangle them off the page like that. So you put your glue here, here, and here, and it's been sewn around. You can't really see it, but that is how I would put that on, okay? So you would have that dangling off the bottom, all right? So that, I'll probably put more things dangling, but I wanted to show you that. Here is a piece of vintage collar, and things that are hard to attach like that because they're stretchy or they're misshapen, I put them on a piece of cardstock. You can semi-see through this. It's got lettering on it, And what I will do is then I will sew it onto that. Okay, glue it and sew it. And then I will glue that to my page. And then I'm going to have a double pocket for this. Okay, so there'll be one in front. It gives it more structure so it holds things better. So I do that. Let's see here. These little bag things, when I put them down, like I said, I would put them down here. If you want to, you can sew around them. You can sew some of the pieces, and it gives it that look. But even if you don't, the fact that you've sewn around it will add to the whole look, okay? I think we have another one over here. Let's say, for instance, this one. You could just put that there, and it'll look fine. This piece here, this is that little fold over that we had with the music paper. So this folded over about a 1/4 of an inch. We had a little fold at the end, and I left that on there. And what I did is I attached this this envelope to it, and then cut off the extra pieces right here of that 1/4 inch. And after I attached that with glue, I went ahead and put a piece of ribbon on there, okay, and I glued that onto, and then I went and sewed that corner. So there you go. You've got this envelope that you have access to here, okay, and it's sewn on there, and it looks like it's just hanging off the side, when actually what it was is we had that little 1/4 little flip out right there, okay. Let's see. Here again is another one that I sewed all the way around, and when I put it in, I'm going to put it in just like that. So you see the stitching on the outside, and you see stitching on the other side, okay? You'll see that stitching. So it looks like it's sewn in reality it's not, and it actually is better, because when you put this on and put it that way, that gives you more room to put tags and things like that. There's our doily I showed you earlier. Another snippet. If I wanted to put that on like that, I could sew here and here and make it look sewn on, or sewn, and then just glue it and then have something to put here. Or I could put it at the top of the page, which I like to do. I don't like to put everything at the bottom because it really bulks it up. And that would be a great little tuck spot right there. See how pretty that looks? And these are things I made ahead of time, not even knowing what I was going to do. Okay, so it's amazing how sometimes that stuff just will end up looking really good. Okay, so anyway, that is kind of an idea of the kind of things that you can put in your journal, make it look sewn in. I don't put those in before I sew it, because I'm going to glue them in anyway, and the less bulk I have when I'm sewing my signatures in, the better. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is we are going to sew in our signatures. All right, so the first thing I do is I take each signature and I look through it, okay, and I go, okay, how does that look? Do I want those pages there? And I kind of position my pages where I want them in the signature, where I want them, you know, as far as like, do I want this down there? Do I want it up there? I don't always want these necessarily in the middle. I may want one down here. I may want another shorter one up there. It just all depends on the look I'm going for, okay? Like this I'm going to put up there. This I may put down here because I want it to get two holes in it. I don't want just the one. Okay, and I'm not looking for them to be in there perfect just yet. I'm just trying to get everything. This is my envelope, so that needs to be opened up. You know, something happened here. Yeah, that's in the wrong spot. There we go. Okay, that goes there. So anyway, I think I like where everything is here, so I'm going to go ahead and I am going to take some clips, and I'm going to clip one on one side, okay, right here, And then I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to hold it shut as much as possible when I do this, okay? Make it as tight as possible toward the bottom, tight as possible. I think I'm going to move that down a tiny bit. Again, you want to get everything where you want it. Get that down. And there we go. So that kind of gets it where I want. Usually you have to work with it a little bit after you do it and push it down. The more you have it shut when you're doing this stuff, the better it's going to have the hole come straight to the center, because that's how the pages will be. If you do it flat, it doesn't work as well. A lot of times I go ahead and I make sure that it's down there nice and good, and I'll go ahead and clip the other side. Like, see, I can tell this can move down a little bit. You just kind of fiddle with it until you get it the way you want it. And that's the problem with having too many pages. It's really hard to get it to lay flat because you have so many pages. And that's part of the reason why you don't really want that many pages, okay? Not to mention your journal will get way too bulky. So alright, so I like that. So that's my first one. And then my second one is going to be this one. I'll do the same thing with that. Okay, so those are my signatures. They are ready to go. I've got 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, I'm going to put them aside because this next part I kind of want to explain a little bit. Remember, we did our little lines here, and you can still see them outside, and then you can kind of see them in here. You know, you have them in here. That's going to help us when it comes time to sew in our signatures, okay? And you'll see why in a minute. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my scoreboard out, okay? And I'm going to get a piece of, this is just part of my file folder. I'm going to go ahead, and I could get my cutter out if I wanted to, but I'm going to get make a 2-inch piece, and I'm just going to use my scissors rather than be lazy and get my cutter out. But I have a line, so it'll be nice and straight, hopefully. Okay, so I've got a 2-inch piece, and then our cover was 8 3/4, but the largest piece of paper that we have that we're going to put in there is 8 1/2. I always cut it to the largest piece of paper, and then well, you'll see what I do. So I'm going to make this 8 1/2. So I'm just going to mark this 8 1/2. Okay, and I'm going to cut that off. So now I have a 2-inch by 8 1/2, and that's the largest piece that we have in here is an 8 1/2 piece, okay? Like some of these pieces are 8 1/2. Now you may not have liked that. You may have cut all your pieces to be 8 1/4 like our other, these were. I don't really care. When I do my journal, I like it to be not the same. Okay, that's just how I am. I like it to not match. So, but anyway, but no matter what, you're going to go to your longest piece, which is 8 1/2, and then 2 inches was the size of our spine. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I am going to divide this similar to how we did our spine. I'm going to go in the middle, and in the middle of 2 is 1, so we're going to go right down there. So that's the middle. Okay, then we're going to go, we have 1 inch here, we're going to move over a 1/2 inch, okay, because here's the 2-inch mark. We're going to come in a 1/2 or out from 1, either way, basically in the middle of that inch, okay? And then we're going to go to the middle of this inch, to the 1/2 inch mark there, okay? All right, so those are our lines that we're going to use to sew in our signature. Okay, what I'm going to do, you don't necessarily have to fold these, but I'm just doing it so that you can see the little marks. Okay, so here's my ruler, and if you want to find the middle, you can use a ruler. I usually just eyeball it, but let's just say that for just to keep everybody happy, all the measuring people, this Tim Holtz ruler has a you put the 0 where you think the middle is, and you get equal amounts. You get the same number on each side, so this would have to come over here. So that's the middle right there. Because sometimes when I eyeball it, I don't do a very good job. So anyway, so that's the middle. I mark that, and then I come in about an inch from the top and an inch from here, and I do that while I have it marked. So that's, I'm on the 3 there, and I'm on the 3 there. Okay, so that's what that tells me. And then I go and I mark that, and I mark that, and I mark that, and then I come and I mark this right here. Okay, so that gives me my marks that I'm going to use. And I mark one top and one bottom, or just top, because even though we measured, we could be off the tiniest little bit. And what happens when that happens is that your signatures will be off a little. Usually when I measure and not just eyeball it, it's not off enough to make a difference that you can tell. But if I'm just eyeballing it, chances are there'll be enough of a difference that you can tell. Okay, let me get a drink of water here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is this is going to go in here. And what I do for this, see if you can tell, we've got about 1/4 of an inch. This is the top and the bottom, right? That this is not, it's not hitting the top, and not, it doesn't matter, because we're going to center this in the middle. Okay, we're going to center this to where we have a little on top, a little on bottom, and I'm just eyeballing it. And I'm also going to look at these lines. Remember the lines that we put in there? That helps me center this, okay, to where it's in there straight. That's why those lines to me are beneficial for a lot of different reasons. Okay, that little trim is going over that, so I'm going to kind of do that. So I'm going to line this up, get it where I need it, and I clip that on there so it doesn't move. Okay, I'll put a clip on each side. All right, then I take my awl, which is your pointy tool. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch my holes out where I have this, and make sure this is where it needs to be. I think it could come, is that over? I think it could actually move over a tiny bit. And I think that's because I have this here. Yeah, I think just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. Probably wouldn't make any difference if I did it there. Again, I'm centering it in there. Okay? That way when my signatures sit in here, the top of that page is going to be right here, because that's the longest piece. Okay? And the bottom will be right here. Okay? And that's why we do it that way. Alright, so now that I have that in there, I have where I'm going to punch my holes. I usually just do the center hole first. It doesn't really matter. It can go any of them. And you're going to just basically be punching all of your holes. And I make sure they're big enough. And I just do all 3. And be careful you don't punch your finger, which I have done. I don't even know how many times I've done it. I have done it. Okay, and a lot of people, they punch into a book or something, and I actually have this little thing here, which probably would be safer. You can take, this is a soft foam thing, and you can put that down like that, or you can use a book, and you can just punch right down into it rather than holding it. Okay, that way it's a little bit safer than trying to hold it and do it, which, then you don't punch your fingers. So I'm going to do these 3. Now, there is something you can do if you have a really busy pattern on the back and you can't see it really well. You can go in and mark these little dots so that you can see them. I can see these pretty good. I'm not too worried about it. So, but I don't know, do I have my chalk stuff here? I do somewhere. But I have some chalk, little chalk things, and I can go ahead and mark these if I want to, okay? Or if you're going to be covering it up, you can mark it with something else. I mean, like, if I cover this up, I can just take a little pen and go, you know, right? I can just do that, and then I have my little marks there. The inside's not going to be a problem because we have pretty good, you know, it's a light color and we can see it. Okay, so now we have our holes marked. We have to do our signatures, and I'm going to start with the first signature. So here is my first signature, and you get it right side up. Okay, that's this way. We've got all the pieces in. Put the top at the top, and the only holes that we're punching on this are the middle ones, okay? So we're going to just punch the middle ones out because we're not worried about the whole 3 signatures, okay? So then what I do is I line, now this is the same size as the tallest paper, and I will line that up, and you can clip that in there to get it right where you need it, okay? I don't usually clip both, and I hold mine kind of tilted like this because that is going to give you the best hole that comes through the side, okay? The more you can hold it, and that's why people cradle it in a book. I never do. I think it's more work that way, but I don't know. You may want to do that. I just kind of hold it kind of shut and go right in the hole, right where the dot is, and I have no problems, okay? So I do that. Let's do the next one. Okay, so I have all my holes, and now I'm going to start sewing in my signatures. And the way I always do it when I have a 3 signature journal is I do the middle one first. And the reason I do that is because I have actually got to the point where, I'll show you, is I would, like, if I did the first one, I would sew it in here and then maybe sew it crooked here and then come back over here. If you sew it in the middle, you can't do that. You can't mess up. Okay, so that's just why I do it that way. It's just, and it's a habit. I think now I probably wouldn't do that, but a new person might do that. Okay, so now we're going to sew in our signatures, and I'm using my wax thread, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 times the length. You can go longer if you want to have danglies. I'm not going to do that, I don't think, on the middle one. So then I'm going to put this through here, and I put a paper clip on the end so it doesn't go all the way through, and I leave however much tail I want on there. I just go one time like that. So I'm going to do my middle signature first. I just always do that so I don't get confused and go from here to here, there to there. This one's going to be a little different because we have this doily, so I have to figure out how. The way that I'm going to do this is if I just go straight like that, the knot will go through there. So I am actually going to do a loop through here, just kind of a stitch. And then I'm going to go in because that way it'll hold it. And I'm going to go straight through the middle. Just start out with the middle. Okay. And then find my middle in my journal. Okay. And go straight in there. Okay. And that's that. Now I'm going to go through either the top or the bottom. It doesn't really matter. So here's the bottom. Here's my pages. I'm going to hold them at an angle And I'm just going to go right in. Should be able to go right in. Okay. Now I have that doily. I got to make sure I got that. It was doubled over there for a minute. And it goes straight in. Okay. Now this doily is a little different. So, and all I'm doing on that is I'm just kind of looping it around because I want to make sure, because these are big holes. Alright, so if I just put it through there, it's not going to hold it. And I may have to come back later and do something, but I think this will work. I think it'll work. Okay. A little different, but you know, it'll work, I think. Alright, now I'm going to go to the bottom because I did the top before. And I'm going to go through that hole. I know you can't see it that well because of this doily. Again, I'm going to loop around this so I tie it in there. You wouldn't normally do that, but I'm doing it because of this. I'm going to go like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go in here. Hold it shut because that allows that hole to go straight through. I'm going to go through the middle bottom. Okay, now I have one more spot to go, and that's back through the middle. And if I hold it shut, I should be able to get in there pretty easy. This usually is the toughest one, and you can see I can go right through there. If I hold it shut as much as possible, that hole is probably going to line up pretty good. Okay. There we go. Now I can feel it that it did not go in the right way. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to look and get that lined up. That means the hole probably moved around a little bit somewhere. That's when so you can take your clips off at this point and you can pull your pages and figure out, okay, there it is right there. So what that's telling me is it didn't go straight in there. So I need it to go there. Now I've got it in the right spot. You don't want it to go through your middle thread. And then you come back through. And I'm actually coming in on the other end because I want to tie that in. Okay. And even though we have that doily there, I'm going to pull this off. Okay. And I always have a lot of extra thread, but that's okay. I use it for other things. Alright, so now we have that in. Okay, you want to look at it. Make sure you have it in, you know, the way you want it. Right side up. Here's all your pages. Okay, now what I do is I tighten it up. And the way that I do that is first I pull it. And then I take these strings and I'll put one underneath here on this side, okay, then one underneath here on this side, on the opposite side, okay, and then I pull them opposite. And what that does is it causes tension and it pulls, each string pulls that middle string, and you can tighten it as much as you want. Of course, look on the outside just in case it's not tight, but it should be very tight, okay. And after you've done that, it's nice and tight, I tie a knot. And I usually tie 2 knots. Even if I'm going to tie a bow, I tie a knot, okay? Because, and I do 2. And there, okay? So we can either tie a bow there, we can put dangles, we can do whatever it is we want. And our doily's in there good. And this is probably not a great example, but all I did on this is I looped around before I sewed in, and that was to hang on to this doily, okay? I just put a loop around each one of these, okay? So that's done. That's our middle. So now I'll either do the front or the back. It doesn't really matter. So we'll do the next one. I'm going to speed this up, but we're going to do it, okay? you just kind of lift the papers and put it onto the needle, and that will get them on there straight if that happens to you. Okay, usually when I'm sewing in a 3 signature journal, there'll be at least one that does that. If I'm lucky, all of them won't, but sometimes there's usually at least one. And then again, that is how you solve that problem. I don't know, it just always seems to happen at least once, but it's pretty easy to fix. So we have sewn in all 3 signatures. We have our little danglies here. We can dangle stuff off of them if we want to. On our envelopes, we simply go, here, let me find one and I'll show you. Do the front one, I guess. Here's our envelope. So we'll just go through and usually I cut those. I don't do anything. I don't tie a bow or anything. And then I go like that and glue it shut, and then you have your envelope. So there, that's it, guys. All right. So that is pretty much it. I don't really know what else to tell you that we're going to do with this journal. I'm going to finish decorating it. I'm going to put in all of the pockets that I showed you. I will put in all of the extra, put the ephemera in there. We still have, guys, this is everything else that still comes with it that we have to put in it. Okay, so we'll cut this up. I'll decorate some. I maybe put some other stuff in there with it. But that is all that's left to do, and that's just a matter of personal preference and what you want in there. It's not really structure. So that is that. See, your envelope does that. That way you don't show your strings or anything on there. The only other thing that I was going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of this on here just to hide this. I might put a smaller one. Let me see. Let's see. Maybe I'll just use that one. Okay, that is about right here. So if you don't want your strings to show, you can just do that. And remember, we're going to be putting our doily on there. And I remember I left that spot right here to tuck it under, and right here. So that is where this is going to go. Gluing this down, nothing earth shattering. Okay, obviously I'm doing it very crooked, but anyway, get that on there. That's another thing that those lines are good for, because you can see where things are supposed to go. When you're done, you won't even see the lines, but they help you in the process. So, and I'm going to take the extra glue off. All right, I'm going to put a little glue under here. I don't think I put enough. But you get the gist of it. I'm going to go ahead and clip that probably and get that to stay. But that is going to be our journal, and if you see right now it's pretty full, and we haven't even really filled it up with anything. Of course, we've already decorated it, put a lot of stuff in it, but it is going to be a wonderful little shabby journal. I think it'll be really cute when it's all done. Anyway, I think that's it. And you will see the finished product probably in a couple of days. So anyway, that's it. We will see you next time.